Hello everyone, Kunimitsu here. You probably read from the title of the video, and yes, I know I do a lot. That's just how I talk. Get over it. The topic of this video is what the title is, and it is obviously body diversity in video games, media, and just in general, but more specifically video games and media. We don't really need to go into how diverse male characters are in video games, because they're usually pretty damn diverse in terms of shape, size, and species. I mean, just take a look at Smash Brothers. Now, when it comes to female body representation, there's not a lot of diversity with female characters in video games, and that is something I can agree with on the feminist side of things, in saying that there isn't as much diversity between the women as there are with the men. I agree with that. Now, obviously this game that you're watching right now, the clips I'm showing, are a few exceptions, because the team I used are Modam, Amaterasu, and She-Hulk, all of which are female. And as you could tell, they all do not have the same shape. But let me go into my entire thoughts on the whole topic of body diversity and where I stand with it. I agree with feminists in the aspect that I do think it would be nice if we were a little more equal in that aspect. And by equal, I mean equally as diverse in terms of shapes and sizes for female characters versus male characters. Even ages are something I would like to see more diversified with female characters. Remember, not uncommon to see older male characters that are major in video games, but it's pretty rare to find older female characters that are major. Not saying they don't exist, they definitely do. They're just not as common as males. And I agree with that when feminists say that we need more in terms of that. However, where I disagree with it is saying that we need to force developers to do that. That is where I heavily disagree with it. I feel a developer, if they want to make a female character who has exaggerated features such as huge breasts and huge hips and a huge ass, I feel they should have the right to design them that way if that's how they want to design them. In the same aspect, I view males should be designed however an artist sees fit. For instance, look at Akuma. Males don't look like that very often in real life. It's actually pretty rare to find a male that has a shape like that in real life. But at the same time, I don't think we should force developers to suddenly be like, hey, you need to do this, this, and that. I feel it should just come naturally. It shouldn't be shoved down an artist's throat. It shouldn't be forced. It shouldn't be against their will. It needs to be natural. They need to naturally want to do it. They need to be willing to do it. Not to mention, another thing I cannot stand with feminists on this side of the topic is they also like to pretend female body diversity isn't featured hardly at all in video games, and it isn't as common as male body diversity. I can acknowledge that 100%. However, obviously, as you're seeing on screen right now, this game is very different with how its females are shaped. It's also very different in how they're sized. And it's also somewhat different in how they're aged, too, because Amaterasu, or Amaterasu, however you pronounce her name, she's old. She's very old. She's thousands of years old. And then the youngest female in the game is Tron, who's 14. And this is just one example. Oh, and to clarify why Modam counts, she is an alternate costume to MODOK in this game based off of a female Marvel character who looks the same, so she counts. But regarding the rest of what I was saying, there are video games out there that do have what they're talking about. Dragon Age is a good example, specifically Origins. It has an older lady being one of the party members you can recruit, but it also has a female golem creature named Shale. She is somebody who is very differently designed for a female character, especially in RPGs. She's an example of it. Another example is Tekken. Tekken is very diverse with its female roster, and people just do not acknowledge Tekken in that aspect. For instance, Tekken has Panda, who is a literal panda bear. They have Roger Jr.'s mother, who is a literal female kangaroo. You have the female version of Mokujin, who is a wooden training dummy. You have Leo. I don't even need to explain why her body type is different from the other females. There's a bunch of females in Tekken that are hugely diverse. Like, hugely. And they just get overlooked. Another good example, I feel, is Street Fighter. Chun-Li and Cammy don't have the same body types. Poison and Jury don't have the same body types. And, like, Sakura has a different shape, too. Like, there's a bunch of different girls in that game that are shaped very uniquely. Another good example is Super Smash Brothers. Super Smash Brothers has been really good recently with increasing diversity, not just its female roster, but even the body shapes that incorporate it. To clarify, just so people do not take my words out of context, I do not think body diversity 100% is required to make a good game. Hell, I like playing Dead or Alive, and we know how diverse that game is, and I still love that game. But back to Smash Brothers. It has a very hugely diverse female roster, but not only that, their shapes and sizes are also quite a bit different. For instance, we do have the villager, the female villager, the female Mii fighter, the female ice climber Nana. Then there's the Inkling girl. Then there's Wendy Okupa. They all have different shapes and sizes. And then Pikachu Libre, who is also a girl, has a unique shape and size. But the other girls are also shaped differently. Zero Suit Samus, does not have the same shape as Peach and Zelda. Zelda's taller than Peach. Sheik is more muscular than the other girls there. And I mean, I really don't have to explain much there. It just counts. Now, a fighting game series, especially, I'm honestly really surprised. I'm really surprised feminists do not bring up this game more often, because it is a game that, while obscure, does exist. And it's not only spawned one sequel, but it spawned over 4 sequels. The last one, which was recently released in 2012. Power Instinct is a obscure but popular cult series. People like it that have played it. Most people who played it usually enjoy the series. This series is probably the best example of female diversity in a fighting game and video game, period. It has the age diversity that the female characters normally do not have, and is usually restricted to the males. I mean, for crying out loud, the mascots of that game are 2 old ladies. Yeah, this series doesn't just have those 2, though. It has 5 old women in total, 4 of which are playable in the most recent game. Not to mention, it also has female characters who are also, well, more specifically, only 1 female character who fits this bill, but she still counts. A female character in that series that is extremely muscular, extremely buff, large. She's very large, and that was the intent behind her character. She's supposed to be big and muscular. She was made there to fill out the strong fighter archetype. Not to mention that there are also little girls in the game that are playable, but also conventionally attractive looking girls as well. Not to mention there are girls who look like boys in the game as well. And it is, like I said, it is diversity with female characters. Every which way you ask, it is diversity. Like, it should be what feminists are looking for. It has the diversity they want. And I'm honestly surprised they don't talk about this game very often. Like, at all. And I get that it's obscure, but that should not be an excuse. Especially if these feminists do their research and claim to do research of all video games, but somehow conveniently miss this game. 4 of which were released within the States. And you conveniently miss this game series? Not very good research. And let's not forget, Killer Instinct is also another one that is diverse with its female characters. It has Arya, which is a robot. Riptor, who is a female animal in the series. Hisako, who is she's I hope I'm pronouncing this right. I'm not good with pronouncing Japanese names, but Onryo? Basically, it's an avenging ghost that's in Japanese folklore. This game has very diverse females in the roster. Which is ironic, because in the beginning, other than Riptor, they really weren't that diverse with their female characters. Another one that's very diverse, ironically, is one that's overlooked, Not because it's not popular, it's definitely popular, but it's overlooked and often not counted. And that would be Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is another example of a fighting game that is diverse with its female characters. And then there's the obvious Overwatch. Listen, I can name characters. Listen, I can name diverse characters all day. List video games that have diverse characters all day. I can do that all day, but I'm not here to make this entire video me listing video games that have that. What I'm here to do is obviously give my 2 cents, what I think should happen and how we should go about it. And what I think we should do, I think we should, the feminist side has a point in saying that we could be more diverse. We could be more diverse with our female characters. Absolutely. I see it from there. I feel that we could be more diverse. However, what I disagree on with these feminists, I already said it in the beginning of the video, I do not feel we need to force it on developers and artists to design women that way, because what is the point of creativity? Let it come naturally. Let them design a character the way they want to design them. There's nothing wrong with a female character being designed with large breasts, large hips, and large ass, and there's nothing wrong with them being conventionally attractive, nothing wrong with them being revealing at all. There is nothing wrong with that. In the same aspect that there's nothing wrong if a male character is designed that way. I mean, it works for Baldo. He's designed to be sexualized in Soul Calibur, and conveniently he's just not talked about by feminists when it comes to calling out sexualization in Soul Calibur, but they overlook the fact that Baldo's designed that way. And he's very clearly designed that way on purpose. I just feel that the solution is just let it come naturally. Let it come naturally. Don't let that be a factor in on the situation. Like, for instance, I love Bayonetta. I love her. She's well characterized. She has a good, if somewhat confusing story, but it makes sense once you play the game. Trust me, you gotta be there to play it. But, what I can say is, because this is what I notice is said a lot in videos regarding body diversity, specifically when it comes to the feminist side. I notice when the topic comes up on the side of feminist, it usually is followed with the topic of developers need to blank, 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 blank. And I feel that is not the way to go about it. They don't need to say developers need to, etc., etc. They don't need to do anything. Again, I agree that it would be nice to have more female body diversity. I agree that it would be nice, and I would prefer that 100%, that the body diversity should be equal on both sides. However, as I've already said multiple times in this video, do not enforce it. Do not be an asshole about it. Because talk about it in a nice, professional way. Don't say it like Like, if you don't apply to these needs, you're part of the patriarchy. Don't say, oh, you're setting a bad example for the gaming community and all the females are designed this way because insert straight male player joke here. Like, that doesn't help. It just makes you look like you're complaining. It doesn't look like you're critiquing. Give a critique. Say it nicely. Don't be an asshole about it. There are nicer ways to say it. If it were made as a suggestion, then it would be different. Because you're not enforcing it, you're just suggesting it. And there isn't nothing wrong with a suggestion at the end of the day, provided it's not a forceful suggestion. And I just feel that body diversity is something that I can see the point of. 100%, I see where they're coming from. I do. But do not say a series is bad because no body diversity. Do not say a series of character designs are bad because they, quote, all look the same, even when they have unique designs. Like Street Fighter. That's a really good example of body diversity, and that's a series that gets shit on by feminists because they say, quote, they're all the same. And it just doesn't make sense to do that. And that's really what I have to say on the whole topic of body diversity. I'm going to discuss a different topic. And this topic, I don't really want to spend another 2 videos discussing this, but I will discuss it very briefly here. It was recommended by a friend that I briefly discuss this. And that is the whole Butch Hartman situation. Again, I do see the side of where Butch fucked up. I see that side completely. However, we do not need to attack him and send him hate messages over his past mistakes. He makes mistakes. He's tried to make amends with those mistakes. Just accept his apology, move on. Move on. You don't need to drag Butch Hartman's name through the mud. You don't need to send him hate messages, death threats, angry messages. Just understand that this is still a human being that you are talking to. You are not talking to an omnipotent being. You are not talking to a deity. You are not talking to something that is unachievable. Butch Hartman is still human. He is someone who has stress like every other one of us on this planet do. He is someone who cries, who gets angry, who gets happy, who gets sad. He's a human being. We don't need to be attacking him over something like this. Again, I see the situation, and parts of it I agree that yes, he fucked up. He fucked up big time. I don't think you need to send him hate. It's just not necessary. The hate does not solve problems at all. It's not surprising that this is happening. It isn't. And trust me, I used to be guilty of sending hate messages to people in the past. I used to. I 100% used to send hate messages to people in the past. But I don't do it no more. And sending hate messages to anybody is not okay. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't, open room for discussion. The only thing it does is it burns bridges. It hinders progress when you get aggressive, when you get angry. This is exactly how I feel about the transgender community. I am a transgender woman myself, and I do not like how they react. You do not need to react with aggression and physical violence every single time someone misgenders you. I agree they should not be doing that. But every single time someone does, you don't need to cuss them out. You don't need to throw them under the bus. You don't need to act like a bitch. Society already sees us like monsters. They already see us as people who are mentally ill. They see us as people who are aggressive. And you reacting that way is only going to fuel that fire. It is only going to fuel that fire. It's only going to make people think that way still, because you don't change their views. You're reinforcing their views when you act like a ratchet cunt, because they're acting like a ratchet cunt. You don't need to overreact. You need to calm down. Take a deep breath. And do not cause harm to people who misgender you. You are allowed to defend yourself. 100%. I agree with that. If someone physically harms you and you need to defend yourself, that's a different story. But if all they're doing is calling you he, or calling you every name in the book, they're calling you he, she, calling you freak, calling you she-male, calling you a freak, calling you a faggot. Who cares? Do not let that get to you. Yes, they shouldn't be using those words, and those are ugly, disgusting words. But reacting to them by beating the shit out of them, cussing them out, only reinforces what society already thinks of us. And they see us as fucking monsters. And reinforcing that fact is not going to help us get further. It is not going to help us build bridges. It is going to burn bridges. It doesn't help anything at all. It doesn't cause more conversations. It does the opposite effect. In fact, what it does is it makes it harder for us to make progress. Progress cannot be made when you combat it with violence, anger, aggression. I am a transgender woman, and this is why the transgender community offends me sometimes, because they paint girls like us in a bad image sometimes because of the aggressive messages that they send. It doesn't help. I ranted on long enough. You guys want to keep up with my content? Like, comment, and subscribe. And I love you guys. See you guys next time. Bye.